Today I review At Empire's End, published by Dark City Games. Dark City specializes in publishing paragraph-based adventures based on the old Melee Wizard system. You may remember it from back then. As I said, these are paragraph-based adventures. That means that each adventure comes with a booklet, and there is an adventure described in here. You move from paragraph to paragraph, you make decisions that will send you to different paragraphs. Depending on the decisions you make, you discover the effect, the result of your decisions, and you keep moving and exploring, doing things like that. They have many adventures and in many different genres. This is sci-fi. Most of the adventures of this type are fantasy. It is refreshing to find a paragraph-based adventure in a sci-fi setting. They can be played by 1 to 4 players. That is, you can play them with a group up to 4. A player may be the narrator, and then you may have 4 players, so one of the players is the narrator. Or you may play it with less players. You can play solitaire, which is the way I played it. And these games are a nice combination between paragraph-based narrative and board game, because you move from paragraph to paragraph to follow the story, but then from time to time you have encounters with less than friendly people, animals, or creatures of various types, and you have to deal with those enemies. Very often you have to fight against them, and when you fight, you move from the booklet to a board. This is only part of the board. The board is folded in 4 in here. It's fairly sturdy cardboard. As you can see, it's also colorful. It's not just a bare grid of hexes. And different areas of the board will be used in different encounters. You place the counters representing your characters, the counters representing the enemies, and then using the melee wizard system, characters will move, attack, perform actions. I'm not going to show the counters that represent the characters so that I do not spoil the adventure for you, but there is quite a variety of monsters, creatures. I want to give you a sense of how much stuff you have. Each of these little baggies that I'm using uses stores a different type of creature. One is for animals, one is for humanoids, things like that. I find this to be a convenient way to store my counters. The art is good. Again, maybe I'm being a little mean and not showing it to you. You know what? I can show you this without spoiling any of the surprises regarding the encounters that you have. So what I will show you is the adventurers, that is the protagonists. So you get a sense of the art. Here we go. Like this. Better? Yeah, you have less shade. And then also in this adventure, you also have dogfights. So this is an adventure that is set in space, is set in the future, and it does include space traveling and dogfighting between different star vessels. Let me just show you the art of some of these. So you will maneuver one of these starships. You may have to fight against other ones. There's a procedure which is somewhat a modified version of standard combat. Cool to have a variety of different encounters, both land-based and some space-based or set in space. The combat system is very simple. It's really, characters have several types of stats. A basic one, very important one, is dexterity, which is the one that you use to hit when you're attacking. And then there's another stat, which is strength, which determines the size and weight of the weapon that you can use in combat. You roll dice. If you roll equal to or less than the stats that you're checking, for example, dexterity, if you're trying to hit somebody, you're successful. Then, for example, in this case, you hit the opponent. Armor will reduce the damage that the opponent takes. So the type of weapon that you use determines the dice and the modifiers that you use to determine the damage. Very, very basic stuff. But you still have many different abilities that can be used and that to customize your characters can be tested in different parts of the adventure. So I guess that here actually I elaborate a little bit on the system in general, the system behind the games by Dark City Games. Now, how about this adventure here specifically at Empire's End? The story, while you're a bounty hunter or the leader of a group of bounty hunters, or you are a group of bounty hunters, and you're traveling at the Empire's End in a deep space, partial unexplored area of the universe. Not exactly like where no man has gone before, but where not many people have gone before, and not everybody came back. You have worlds that are not fully inhabited, or worlds that were inhabited back in the day and they're only ruins now, strange civilizations, and you're exploring this sector of the universe looking for a space pirate, a guy only known as the Duke. And you're trying to capture him and to bring him back to a civilized post where he can be put on trial and locked away for, well, as long as possible. So here you have two aspects of the adventure. One is set in outer space as you're traveling from place to place, and then each time you reach a planet, of course, you have a specific setting there. So what I really like about this is that definitely is variety of environment. Other games may be based in other lands, in other settings, but very often you have a somewhat of an homogeneous setting. If you're traveling in a dark valley, then more or less the things that you encounter are the type of things that you will find in a dark valley. If you're exploring mountains, more or less stuff that you find in the mountains, with variety there, but some restrictions. Much less so in a game in which you're exploring different planets. Here you have a map of the sector that you are exploring. You start exploring here from this space base here, and you go around looking for the Duke, who may be on one of these planets, maybe somewhere else, who knows. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but it's really nice that you have vastly different settings and therefore different experiences, encounters, situations to deal with depending on the planet that you explore. I really like this, and I like this sense of space opera, of traveling vast distances. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I'm talking about the old series, which to me is the best one and pretty much the only one that matters. That sense of wonder, that sense of surprise, of variety, of finding new places, making contacts with strange creatures and entities. I like that sense of discovery, and the game really captures this. On top of this, it is not just a game where going from place to place is neutral. Things do happen as you go from place to place. There are dice to roll to determine some of the random events that may happen on your way to places. That is when some dogfights between starships may happen, other things may happen, but I definitely like this. There's also that extra layer which has to do with events that happen in outer space. Definitely a lot of variety here. In terms of how interesting the setting is, I must say that this is probably my favorite game by Dark City Games. As for the quality of the adventure overall, this is probably one of my favorite ones. All the way up there with the Gates to the Underworld, which used to be my favorite one. This one is probably as good or almost as good. The flow of the adventure is nice. The adventure is has enough encounters and challenges to really keep you interested. The fights are cool, are fun to resolve. Some are hard, some not so much. I would say that overall, if there is something that is, I wouldn't say bad, but a little less awesome than the rest of the adventure, because overall the quality of the adventure is really high. If there is one thing that I find a little weaker than the rest, is the level of difficulty. Maybe I did something wrong, but I found that the game was not too hard to beat. I probably played it for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And I captured the Duke, and I brought it home, and I won big time. All of my adventurers were alive. That hasn't happened in all of my other adventures. Some adventures it took me much longer to complete. Only one lone survivor made it home. Sometimes I failed miserably more than once before I could resolve the situation. I could complete the mission of the adventure. This adventure I didn't find all that hard. But if the replay value may not be very high in this case, what really matters is the play value was good. As I was playing the game, I definitely enjoyed every minute. I enjoyed the encounters, I enjoyed the fights, I enjoyed the descriptions of the planets, I enjoyed the different things that I encountered, interacted with. As you can see, I'm not getting into details too much because I don't want to spoil things for you. There really is a joy in discovering different landscapes and creatures here. If you like this type of sci-fi, if you like a type of adventure where exploring is a big part of the experience, this could be a game for you. And this is solid sci-fi, somewhat classic, I would say almost vintage sci-fi. It has a certain atmosphere, air, tone, personality, call it whatever you want, that seems to come from yesteryear, from the day or the year before last. Not too old, but well, just like a good old Star Trek episode or a mini series that includes several planets, several landscapes, and encounters. At Empire's End, this is definitely a good game. Not one that you will play and replay a million times, but one that is accessible, that is fun. Doesn't have too much bookkeeping. Other adventures maybe are a little bogged down by bookkeeping. Here, the bookkeeping is extremely minimal. Fun, solid, good. I had a good time playing it. I may not play it again, but I don't regret trying it. I don't regret playing it. I really had a good time. Definitely a good title in a system that I enjoyed in the past, and a system and a series that I will keep exploring in the future. At Empire's End by Dark City Games. Good, solid, classic paragraph based adventure.